How I Became a Ghost, a Choctaw Trail of Tears story by Tingle. Chapter 25, A Day of Death. 20 soldiers on horseback rode behind Leader. As they approached the camp of the Choctaw Council, he held his hand high. The soldiers waited. Joseph crouched beside me, watching from the shadows. "Shotguns!" Leader shouted. The soldiers lifted their guns to their shoulders. "You are welcome in our camp," said Mr. Tibby. He rose from the campfire and stepped to the soldiers who held their guns ready to fire. "Take aim!" shouted Leader. He pointed to the tree limbs hanging over the council members, men and women both. "Let us talk about what happened last night," said Mr. Tibby. Leader ignored the Choctaw councilman, as if he were nothing more than a patch of snow on the road. "Fire!" shouted Leader. "Boom, boom, boom!" 20 shotguns exploded, shattering the treetops. Ice-covered branches fell all about the camp, destroying the fire circle and toppling the cooking pot. A large tree limb ripped through the roof of the wagon. Joseph quickly turned into a panther and growled with anger. "Joseph, no!" I shouted. "The soldiers will shoot you. You can't escape 20 men in daylight. Stop, please. Naomi needs you alive." The panther turned to look at me. "After you burned the wagon last night," I said, "they would love to parade your body for everyone to see. You don't want that. Naomi could die too." The panther paused at the mention of Naomi. His dark coat receded, and soon Joseph knelt beside me. At first glance, the Choctaw council members appeared to be safe, but soon a low moan rose from beneath a heavy branch. "Stella!" a woman shouted. "Help me, someone!" 2 councilmen rolled the limb away, and elderly Stella lay unconscious. A large purple bruise covered one cheek, and her eye was swollen shut. Mr. Tibby stood his ground. "We did nothing to deserve this," he said in a quiet but strong voice. Leader leaned from his saddle and for the first time spoke to Mr. Tibby. "You are lucky no one died," he said, "but the day is not over yet. Find the girl and bring her to us." Mr. Tibby turned to his camp. Nanihuma dragged the tree limb from the wagon, and the women circled fallen Stella. "Let's move!" shouted Leader. The soldiers tugged the reins and moved their horses down the road. As Joseph and I watched, something changed among the uniformed horsemen. Some new cloud of fear hung in the air. Since they had left their campsite only a short while ago, they had become deeply afraid of Leader. They had stood and stared, helpless to stop him, as he struck Pointynose with his shotgun. He might have killed him, they realized. Privately, they wondered, what might he do to me? But seeing how helpless the Choctaw council members had been, with no guns or weapons, the soldiers also felt a new power, the power of life and death. They reloaded their shotguns as they rode, eager for the day. By the time they reached the next camp, their fear had turned to anger. "No walking!" Leader shouted at the next group of the Choctaws, sitting quietly around their morning fire. "You," he said, pointing to a young Choctaw man, "run to the others and tell them to stay where they are. No walking today." He turned to his waiting soldiers. "Turn the camp inside out. Burn the blankets," he said. The soldiers leapt from their horses and invaded the camp. They tore blankets from women and children huddled from the cold. They threw their blankets into a fire. If a man stood in their way, they knocked him to the ground. Word soon spread up and down the line of Choctaw walkers. "The soldiers are coming!" When the soldiers arrived at every camp, they found Choctaws standing away from the fires, clinging to their children. As they rode from the camps, flames lifted high from the burning blankets. Curls of smoke filled the air, as closer and closer the soldiers came to my family. "Joseph, I have to warn them," I said. "They'll come after Naomi's parents. I'm going." In a moment I stood by the campfire where my 2 families gathered. I closed my eyes and came to life before their eyes. "Are we safe?" "Yes," I said. "Let them have your blankets and say nothing." "They're looking for Naomi, aren't they?" Gabe asked. "Yes." "And they are angry," I said. "They don't know Nita is dead. They'll be looking to take her." What should we do? Show them her body, I said. Unroll the blanket and let them see that she is dead. I do not want the soldiers to cast their eyes on my little girl, Ruth sobbed. They might take her body from us. They might try to burn it. Mother, said a tiny voice we had come to expect. Anita appeared. I am here. I am with you. My body is not me. Whatever the soldiers do, let them do. Anita is right, I said. When the sun sets on this day, we want everyone to be safe. If they scatter Nita's bones, we will gather them. If they burn her bones, we will gather the ashes. We are Choctaws. We are stronger than the soldiers. I could not believe I had spoken those words. For a long moment, everyone stared at me in silence. A warm yellow cloud rose from the fire and filled the air. Old Man appeared in the cloud. Soon he was joined by every Choctaw from our town, the living and the dead. Our tiny camp was filled with hundreds of people. The living people looked confused, not knowing where they were or how they came to be here. Finally, Old Man spoke. The young man is right, he said, nodding to me. Every Choctaw needs to hear his words. Though my lips didn't move, my voice filled the air, and I heard myself say once more, when the sun sets on this day, we want everyone to be safe. If they scatter Nita's bones, we will gather them. If they burn her bones, we will gather the ashes. We are Choctaws. We are stronger than the soldiers.